In this video, I'm going to show you how to slice a golf ball. Just kidding, we're going to be building a golf simulator. Let's get started. So this is the OptiShot2. This retails for about 300 bucks and it's about the lowest cost, decent golf simulator sensor that you can buy. And it's got a line of sensors in the front and the back of the tee. And basically that measures your club speed coming through the ball as well as your club angle and your swing angle. So that's going to calculate the flight path of the ball. The problem with this sensor is that one, you're already an inch above the ground. Two, is that this surface right here is nothing like an actual fairway. So and when you take any kind of divot off of this surface, it's basically like hitting the club against a hard plastic surface. The nice thing is that after a little bit of research, I was able to stumble across, I believe it's pronounced Arsene Golf, A-R-S-E-N-E golf.com, and they actually make premium turfs like this that will actually accept a tee, and they're very, very close to an actual fairway. So what we can do is we can rip off the manufacturer version of this. He's got some Velcro on here, and we can stick this guy onto our OptiShot2. Now, we do have to go in and do a little bit of programming to the actual system, since now the playing surface is a little bit higher, and we have to compensate for that through the actual club strength and whatnot. But there's details on all of that come with this turf, and he gives you estimates on how to dial in those club strengths, essentially. Now, we've got an even taller surface. So what we need to do is we need to create a stance pad. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna elevate the whole surface. We're gonna make a 4-foot by 6-foot stance pad that will accept this sensor that basically this will sit into, and then this will be completely flush with the top of the sensor. So in order to make that lightweight so it's easy to move around, we're gonna use 2-inch rigid foam insulation. That's gonna give us a nice solid surface to stand on. However, it's still gonna give us that lightweight platform so we can easily move it in and out of where we're going to be playing. So now we've got our turf, our premium turf here, and this is, like I said, so it's very realistic compared to a normal fairway, even such that you can actually set a tee in the turf, versus this one, which obviously they've got to have a little stand for the tee. All right, so I've got 2 pieces of rigid, or actually 2 inches of rigid foam insulation, and then I've got 2 pieces of 1/4-inch Luan. And what that's gonna do is I'm gonna take one, and one's gonna be underneath, and then the other is gonna be on top to help protect that rigid foam insulation from being collapsed or damaged over time. What I'm gonna do in order to cut these down all to the same length is I'll get my circular saw out. I'm gonna line everything up nice and straight on one end, and then I will cut the other end at 6 feet down, and that will cut enough through the rigid foam that it will make that line, and then I can finish that off with a utility blade. All right, this is carpet pad adhesive, and I'm gonna use it to glue everything up. It's probably not exactly the right product I'm supposed to be using for this application, but we're gonna put some of this down here, then we're gonna set our foam on top of that, and then we'll do the same with the other piece of plywood. If you like videos like this and you wanna see more of them, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't done so already. And also don't forget to ring that bell right next to it so that you get notifications anytime we drop a new video. So I came 5 inches in from the side, and then rather than centering the tee at 24 inches on the pad, I moved it up to 21 inches. And what that's gonna do is, because you're never gonna move the ball too far back in your stance, it's always gonna be forward for your drives and then centered for the most part. So this gives you a little bit more room on the back end of the stance pad. So I've marked where my pad is gonna go. Now we'll cut this out with a circular saw and then remove the foam. Now it's time to adhere the carpet pad to the top. So I'm gonna put some more of this adhesive. We're gonna do a nice little perimeter. And then a little zigzag. Do a little bit around there. This is just gonna prevent that from sliding around. Now I'm just gonna go around the perimeter and trim off the excess with a utility knife. Now the carpet pad adhesive is still not dry. If I were to do this again, what I would have done is cut the hole in the wood and the foam before I had adhered it all together. That would have just made it a little bit easier to get out. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna try and keep this all together, flip it upside down and set it on top of the turf. This is the bottom of the turf, or it's upside down, so we'll set it on top of that. Then wrap the edges, trim it, and staple it to the bottom of this turf, or the bottom of this platform. Now, when I set this pad in here, I can already tell that this pad is a little bit lower than that, which I knew was the case. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off by taking the 1/4 inch piece that I cut out of there and use that as a shim. So I'm just gonna stick that back in there. And then I'm gonna try this out again. And that is gonna be pretty close. So I'm gonna go ahead and feed my USB cable through here, which means I'm gonna need to cut a little slot in the hole that I drilled out earlier in that foam. I can feel around and find it. Got that. Feed that cable through there. Maybe. Okay, so we'll plug that in to the sensor, and then we'll just kind of fish that back through there. All the while kind of tucking this turf down in around it, because the sensor is actually going to be what holds the turf in its spot. With the stance pad out of the way, now I can move on to the screen itself. Now I need to build a frame for that screen, which is gonna be 1 foot wider and 1 foot taller, allowing for a 6-inch border all the way around. I'm gonna build that frame out of 2x4s, starting by screwing 2 2x4s together to form an L, which will be the top and the bottom plates. All right, so now when I'm installing the frame, I need to find the studs, because every stud location I want to screw through that frame and into the stud. Now when I'm finding studs, normally if I don't have a stud finder, then what I'll do is I'll look for an outlet, because an outlet is almost always going to be nailed to a stud. So you can tap on both sides of the outlet and you can find this one's hollow, there's a stud right there. So on this side of the stud, we're gonna have, or this side of the outlet, we're gonna have a stud. So you can mark that one. And then what I do with the tape measure is I'll find the number 16, which has usually got a little red circle around it. And then I'll mark that 16 inches away with the edge of the tape measure. And then you can go on down the wall and just kind of graze it, and it leaves a nice light mark on the wall. Now the other thing that I've come across is my favorite stud finder, which is actually only about $7 on Amazon. And this is actually just a magnetic stud finder. So you never have to worry about the batteries or false positives or any of that stuff. So the magnetic stud finder will find the screws in the drywall. So what I do right there is the screw in the drywall, and that will hang there and stay there. So we know the stud is going to be right behind that screw. So I can use that to make sure to locate my studs and then go from there, just as I did before with the tape measure in 16 inches. So now what I'm going to do, I've got some washer head screws, or these are actually just the Craig pocket hole screws, but I am going to place one at the top corners of what aligns with the grommets that are on the screen. So I'm going to come 7 inches in, which allows for that 6 inches of spacing, and then attach the top corner over there, and then from there I'll be able to match up all the grommets. But these little washer head screws I'm going to put right in the front of that 2x4 that's standing off, and just do it so that I'm just leaving enough to where I can get my bungee around the top of this, and we'll call it good. With the screen up, we were able to hit a few balls into it and test it out, make sure that it was gonna work properly. Now I am using a standard movie screen, like I said before, and it's perfect for us because we're just gonna be hitting foam balls in here. If you're using actual golf balls, then you're gonna want an impact screen. You're also gonna wanna make sure that obviously you have like a padded floor and some netting, a little bit more netting up on the sides and the top. Whereas foam balls here in this case, it's not terrible if we don't hit the screen, which we got some guys that are definitely going to miss the screen in a time or two. So now what we're going to do to dress this thing up is I'm going to start by wrapping these 2x4s with batting, and that's just going to help smooth out all the clips and all of these bungees, how they come around the sides of it. And then we'll connect the fabric from the screen here over to the 2x4 and wrap the 2x4, and that's just going to dress it up and give us a nice black border all the way around, hiding all of those bungees. Okay, so I've taken my black fabric and I just went to Joann Fabrics and got the cheapest black stuff that I could get, which happened to be flannel. I think it was like $3 a yard. And I did one 10-foot piece and one 15-foot piece, and this is enough to cover the sides to split it in half. Nevertheless, the way that I'm going to attach this to the screen is I took some double-faced tape and I laid a straight line down the edge of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up. I've temporarily stapled it up at the top just to hold it for me. And then I'm going to line this up so that the double-faced tape, this edge of the double-faced tape lines up with the screen. So I'll just kind of feel that out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a stapler, and then I'm going to staple it to the screen itself through the double-faced tape. So the double-faced tape is not only going to act as some more support for the screen, but it's also we'll peel this layer of, this other layer off the double-faced tape so that when we fold this over and staple it to the frame, this will give us, that double face tape will give us a nice straight line right along the screen. So overall, I love this setup. The fact that we can watch TV on the projector or we can turn it into a golf simulator is really, really cool. All in, I want to say that I'm probably around $1,500 in the entire setup. The stance pad with the turf is probably about 250 bucks. And then you've got the sensor, which is another $300. The screen was about $200, a little bit less. And then I've got another $100 in fabric there. I've got about $800 into the projector. However, you could save a lot of money by going with a cheaper projector. I was able to actually find that projector off of eBay. It's a brighter projector, so you want to look for something with higher lumens if you're dealing with a lot of ambient light like I am. And then the sensor is the OptiShot2. That is about a $300 sensor. So overall, the sensor is great. It's very fun to play with. There are some limitations with the sensor. For instance, it's not going to be able to tell you if you skull the ball or if you hit it off the bottom of the club or if you sky it by hitting underneath the ball too much. If you take too much divot or not enough, it's not going to be able to tell you that. But it is going to be able to tell you your club speed as well as your club face angle and your path, your club path as it's coming through the ball. And as far as that goes, it is very accurate with that. And you can also adjust the club settings within the system to kind of fine tune it and get it exactly to where you're normally hitting the ball. Overall, I know that when my buddies come over, we're gonna have a blast playing this for a long time, especially in the winter when we can't get out on the course. But wait, before you guys go, make sure you check out that video up there. YouTube thinks you'll like it, and I do too. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, make sure you hit that one down there. And if you want all the details on this build, including pricing, links to everything, this button right here is gonna send you on over to the website. Until next time, be safe and happy building.